The Art of War by Sun Tzu is a timeless masterpiece on strategy, leadership, and decision-making. It is not just a book about battles. It is a manual for understanding competition, human behavior, and the dynamics of power. According to Sun Tzu, true victory comes not from brute force, but from wisdom, preparation, and intelligence. The battlefield is primarily mental. The greatest generals are those who understand their soldiers, anticipate their enemies, and make precise decisions. This book teaches how to plan and prepare to secure victory before fighting, identify weaknesses and intentions of the opponent, maximize results while minimizing losses, use strategy, deception, and timing to gain advantage. Sun Tzu warns that impulsive decisions driven by anger, ego, or impatience often lead to defeat. True success lies in calculation, observation, discipline, and mastery of the mind. Chapter 1. Laying Plans. War is a matter of life and death. It is a path to either survival or ruin. A leader who embarks on battle without preparation risks destroying his nation, his army, and his people. Sun Tzu emphasizes evaluating 5 fundamental factors. 1. Moral influence, the unity between ruler and people. Soldiers must trust their commander and believe in the purpose of war. 2. Heaven, weather, seasons, and timing influence troop movements and morale. 3. Earth, terrain determines positioning, strategy, and the advantages of attack or defense. 4. The commander qualities such as wisdom, sincerity, courage, discipline, and benevolence define leadership. 5. Method and discipline, organization, logistics, hierarchy, training, and supply lines sustain an army. Sun Tzu outlines 7 evaluations to determine the likelihood of victory. Who has stronger moral influence? Which commander is wiser? Who utilizes timing and terrain better? Which army is better trained and disciplined? Which has stronger, more capable soldiers? Which side administers rewards and punishments fairly? Which is better organized overall? The side superior in these factors is more likely to win before any battle begins. Deception. All warfare is based on deception. Sun Tzu teaches, appear weak when you are strong. Appear strong when you are weak. Appear far when near and near when far. Appear unprepared when ready and ready when inactive. Confusing the enemy causes them to make mistakes. The clever general wins without fighting, by shaping the enemy's perception and forcing errors. Energy and timing. Victory comes from effective use of energy, not sheer force. Troops must be preserved for decisive moments. Momentum and timing, when exploited correctly, can decide battles without prolonged combat. Emotional discipline. Anger, pride, and impulsiveness lead to defeat. Calm, rational, and calculated leaders maintain control and make effective decisions. Mastery of one's own mind is as crucial as understanding the battlefield. Conclusion of Chapter 1. Battles are won before engagement, through analysis, planning, and deception. True strategy avoids unnecessary conflict and maximizes advantages. Sun Tzu emphasizes that the first challenge in war is the cost. War is not fought with courage alone. It requires vast resources: food, weapons, equipment, transport, salaries, and supplies. A prolonged war drains the treasury, exhausts the people, and destabilizes the state. Therefore, war must be swift, decisive, and efficient. Long campaigns weaken armies physically and mentally, reduce morale, and give the enemy opportunities to regroup or receive reinforcements. Sun Tzu stresses, victory favors the army that moves quickly and strikes decisively. A smart commander uses enemy resources to support his own army. Soldiers must be rewarded for their achievements to maintain morale. The principle of speed is central. The faster a war is concluded, the fewer losses occur and the state remains stable. A prolonged war erodes discipline, strains logistics, and increases vulnerability. Resource management is equally crucial. Sun Tzu advises capturing the enemy's supplies rather than destroying them. This sustains your army while weakening the opponent. Mismanagement of resources leads to unnecessary hardship, desertion, and eventual defeat. Minimizing unnecessary combat is key. Fighting without strategic purpose is wasteful. Every action should move toward a decisive outcome, preserving the army for critical operations. Sun Tzu summarizes: avoid drawn-out battles. Conserve energy and resources. Attack with precision. Use deception and speed to maximize effect. The smart general focuses on achieving strategic goals rather than indulging in prolonged conflict, preserving his forces for critical opportunities, and ensuring the state's long-term security. Chapter 2 establishes that the cost of war goes beyond the battlefield, affecting logistics, finances, morale, and the very survival of the nation. Strategic efficiency, speed, and careful management determine the difference between victory and ruin. Sun Tzu emphasizes that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. The highest form of victory is achieved by strategy, intelligence, and diplomacy rather than force. Direct combat should be a last resort. The hierarchy of strategic goals, according to Sun Tzu, is 1. Disrupt the enemy's plans. The most effective victory comes from preventing the enemy from executing their strategy. 2. Break alliances. Weakening the enemy's support network ensures their isolation. 3. Defeat the enemy's army. Engaging troops is effective only when other options fail. 4. Attack fortified cities, considered the least favorable approach due to high cost, time, and casualties. Direct assaults on cities and sieges are slow, resource-intensive, and risky. A wise general avoids these unless absolutely necessary. Sun Tzu repeatedly stresses knowledge and preparation. Know yourself, understand your own army, strengths, weaknesses, and morale. Know your enemy, understand their capabilities, intentions, and limitations. Act according to opportunity. Engage only when success is highly probable. He warns that failure to understand either side results in unnecessary losses or total defeat. Principles of strategic superiority. Target enemy weaknesses, not strengths. Force the enemy into positions that benefit you. Shape the battlefield mentally and psychologically before the physical engagement. Use deception to mislead, confuse, and provoke mistakes. Sun Tzu highlights that true power lies in controlling the enemy's decisions. A general can manipulate perceptions, create fear, and compel enemy movements without a single blade being drawn. Hierarchy of command effectiveness. Sun Tzu defines levels of strategic excellence. 1. Best commander destroys the enemy's plans. 2. Second best breaks alliances and support structures. 3. Third divides and defeats the enemy army. 4. Worst directly assaults cities and fortifications. This hierarchy underscores the principle: war should be won through intellect, not brute force. Avoiding unnecessary conflict. Never wage war for pride, ego, or vengeance. Each engagement must provide a strategic advantage. Inefficient conflict wastes lives, resources, and morale. Sun Tzu's key message in this chapter: the most skilled general wins by strategy, not by force. He defeats the enemy before the battle even begins. Chapter 3 establishes that planning, knowledge, and manipulation of both physical and psychological factors are more important than combat itself. A smart general wins by controlling the battlefield before the battle occurs. Chapter 4. Tactical dispositions. Sun Tzu teaches that a wise general focuses first on security and defense, then on opportunity and offense. The art of war is not only about attacking but about making oneself unbeatable. Victory comes to the commander who is well prepared and strategically positioned, while the enemy makes mistakes due to misjudgment. Defensive preparations. A strong army must first secure its position. The general ensures that his forces are protected from sudden attacks. Defense includes fortifying positions, managing supply lines, and maintaining morale. Sun Tzu stresses that no army can be defeated if it is perfectly positioned and disciplined, regardless of the enemy's strength. Positioning is a foundation. It buys time, preserves strength, and sets the stage for decisive action. Offensive opportunities. Attack only when the enemy is vulnerable. Exploit gaps in their strategy, weak points in formations, or misjudgments in morale. Never attack a strong, well-prepared force without a clear advantage. Sun Tzu emphasizes psychological superiority. By controlling the perception of the battlefield, a general forces the enemy to act according to his plan, often without realizing it. Balance of defense and attack. A good commander does not rush into battle. He prepares defensive measures while observing and waiting for the enemy to reveal weaknesses. Timing is crucial. Strike at the most opportune moment, when success is highly probable. Formation and order. Troop deployment must match terrain and objectives. Orderly formations allow rapid adaptation, efficient communication, and coordination. Chaos in the ranks invites disaster. Discipline ensures the army remains a single, cohesive unit. Sun Tzu notes that impenetrable defense combined with flexible offense makes an army almost invincible. A general should always secure his position before attempting aggressive maneuvers. Psychological warfare. Soldiers must believe in their leadership. Confidence in the general's plans and trust in the army structure prevent panic and disorder. A disciplined army under confident command acts decisively and seizes opportunities that a disorganized enemy cannot. Conclusion of Chapter 4. Victory is achieved by preparing to be unassailable, forcing the enemy into mistakes, and attacking only when the odds are in your favor. Defense secures the present. Strategy and observation create future opportunities. The general who masters tactical dispositions controls the battlefield before a single engagement occurs. Chapter 5. Energy. Sun Tzu emphasizes that the effectiveness of an army is not measured by size alone, but by how well it manages and directs its energy. Energy is the combination of discipline, coordination, momentum, and timing. A smaller, well-organized army can defeat a larger but uncoordinated force. Use of direct and indirect forces. Direct force, engaging the enemy head-on, obvious attacks. Indirect force, subtle maneuvers, ambushes, diversionary tactics. Sun Tzu teaches that the greatest victories come when direct and indirect methods are combined. By creating unpredictable movements, a general can confuse and weaken the enemy, multiplying the effect of his army without increasing numbers. Momentum and timing. Energy must be conserved for the decisive moment. Overextending forces too early leads to exhaustion and vulnerability. Sudden, focused bursts of energy at the right moment maximize impact. A disciplined army channels its energy efficiently. It is like a bow. Potential is stored, then released at the perfect instant. Discipline and coordination. Soldiers must act as a cohesive unit. Communication, chain of command, and clear orders ensure that energy is not wasted. Chaos and mismanagement reduce the army's effective power, regardless of size. Sun Tzu explains that maintaining order allows for rapid response, flexibility, and the ability to exploit enemy weaknesses instantly. Psychological application of energy. Displaying controlled energy intimidates the enemy. Demonstrating disorder or panic saps your own force's morale. A confident, well-coordinated army projects power and discourages resistance. Effective use of energy is both physical and psychological, managing troop movements, logistics, and morale simultaneously. Conclusion of Chapter 5. Victory is not won solely by numbers or strength, but by the strategic application of energy. Combining direct and indirect tactics, timing attacks precisely, and maintaining discipline ensures that an army achieves maximum effect with minimal waste. The general who understands energy uses his army like a perfectly tuned instrument, capable of producing devastating results with precision. Chapter 6. Weak points and strong. Sun Tzu teaches that understanding both your own strengths and weaknesses and those of the enemy is the key to victory. A wise commander never attacks the enemy where they are strongest. Instead, he identifies and exploits their weak points. Exploiting weakness. Observe the enemy to find vulnerabilities in their formations, strategies, and morale. Attack where they are unprepared, divided, or overextended. Never confront a well-prepared or entrenched enemy directly. Sun Tzu emphasizes that the location, timing, and method of attack are critical. By striking unexpectedly at weak points, a smaller or less powerful force can defeat a stronger one. Concealment and deception. Hide your true strength to mislead the enemy. Make your army appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. Manipulate the enemy's perception to control their actions. Deception ensures that the enemy is reacting to illusions, making predictable mistakes. Victory becomes possible without direct confrontation. Predicting enemy behavior. Every army has patterns, routines, and predictable behaviors. Study the enemy's habits to anticipate their moves. Force the enemy to act according to your plan by presenting false opportunities or threats. Sun Tzu warns that failure to recognize patterns or misjudging the enemy's reactions often leads to disaster. Self-awareness and flexibility. Understand your own army's capabilities and limits. Exploit strengths and cover weaknesses. Adjust tactics dynamically according to the situation. The wise commander adapts constantly, never sticking rigidly to a single approach. Flexibility and awareness maximize advantage and reduce risk. Psychological control. The general must manipulate the enemy's mind, creating uncertainty and fear. Confusion leads to hesitation, mistakes, and vulnerability. Controlling perception often produces the same result as physical victory. Conclusion of Chapter 6. Victory comes from attacking where the enemy is weakest and avoiding where they are strongest. Combining deception, observation, and flexibility allows an army to dominate without unnecessary losses. Mastery of both physical and psychological aspects of war ensures that a general controls the battlefield before battle begins. Chapter 7. Maneuvering. Sun Tzu emphasizes that movement and positioning are among the most challenging aspects of warfare. An army's effectiveness depends not only on its strength but on how well it moves, coordinates, and adapts during campaigns. Maneuvering involves both physical movement across terrain and psychological positioning to control the enemy's perception. Coordination and order. A well-coordinated army can respond rapidly to changing situations. Troops must move together, maintaining formations and lines of communication. Disorganized movement leads to vulnerability, confusion, and reduced combat effectiveness. Sun Tzu teaches that discipline is essential. Soldiers must act as a single unit, following orders precisely while remaining flexible enough to adapt to unexpected circumstances. Speed and timing. Rapid movement can surprise and overwhelm the enemy. Slow or poorly timed maneuvers allow the enemy to react, reinforce, or exploit gaps. A commander must balance speed with control, ensuring the army is prepared for sudden engagement. Momentum is a key element. Properly timed advances or retreats can shift the balance of a battle without direct conflict. Terrain and maneuver. Understanding the terrain is critical for maneuvering effectively. Hills, rivers, forests, and narrow passes all influence the army's movement. Choosing paths that optimize speed and minimize exposure ensures tactical advantage. Sun Tzu emphasizes that terrain can multiply or diminish an army's energy. Using it effectively is a hallmark of skillful command. Psychological impact. Maneuvering affects both morale and perception. Sudden appearances, unexpected advances, or strategic retreats can intimidate or confuse the enemy. Soldiers' confidence is strengthened when they move in coordinated, disciplined patterns, while the enemy feels uncertainty and fear. Avoiding common pitfalls. Overextending forces creates vulnerability. Marching too far without supplies or rest reduces effectiveness. Unclear communication can cause disarray, leaving units exposed. A smart commander anticipates these risks, ensures lines of supply, maintains morale, and keeps the army cohesive. Conclusion of Chapter 7. Successful maneuvering relies on discipline, coordination, timing, and understanding of terrain. Properly executed, it allows the army to control the battlefield, shape the enemy's decisions, and gain the advantage without necessarily engaging in direct combat. A general who masters maneuvering turns mobility into both a weapon and a shield, creating opportunities while minimizing risk. Chapter 8. Variation in Tactics. Sun Tzu emphasizes that no plan survives unchanged in the chaos of war. A wise commander must adapt tactics to circumstances, respond to the enemy's moves, and exploit opportunities as they arise. Rigidity is dangerous. Flexibility is essential. Adapting to the situation. Every battlefield and enemy is different. Fixed strategies can fail if the enemy acts unpredictably. The general must constantly reassess and adjust based on intelligence, terrain, and morale. Flexibility ensures that an army can exploit sudden openings and avoid unnecessary losses. Using the enemy's moves. Observe the enemy and use their actions against them. Force them into positions of disadvantage through deception and maneuver. Manipulate appearances to create false impressions of strength or weakness. Sun Tzu teaches that the best tactics exploit the enemy's expectations. If they anticipate your move, you must alter it. If they do not, you have the advantage. Timing and decision-making. Certain tactics work only at the right moment. Hastiness can waste resources. Delay can squander opportunities. A skilled commander knows when to engage, retreat, or feign weakness. Timing transforms ordinary maneuvers into decisive blows. Knowing when to strike is as important as knowing how to strike. Combining strategies. Direct and indirect methods must be mixed strategically. Surprise attacks, feints, ambushes, and diversions work best when coordinated. Variation keeps the enemy off balance, unsure of how to respond. An army that can switch seamlessly between approaches dominates both physically and psychologically. Avoiding predictability. Repetition makes the army predictable and vulnerable. Continuous observation of both own and enemy forces allows the general to vary responses intelligently. Predictable tactics invite counterattacks and exploitation. Sun Tzu stresses that the mind of the enemy is a battlefield in itself. Variation ensures confusion, hesitation, and miscalculation. Conclusion of Chapter 8. Victory relies on adaptability, timing, and creative use of tactics. Flexibility transforms a skilled army into a force that can respond to any situation. The general who masters variation in tactics controls the flow of battle, turning uncertainty into advantage and minimizing risk. Chapter 9. The Army on the March. Sun Tzu emphasizes that observing both your own troops and the enemy's movements is crucial during a campaign. An army's march is not merely a movement of forces. It is a complex operation that involves discipline, morale, terrain awareness, and intelligence gathering. Observation and interpretation. The general must study signs from the environment, terrain, and even enemy behavior. Dust clouds, sounds, smoke, and local activity provide clues about enemy position, numbers, and intentions. For example, rising dust may indicate cavalry movement. Slow-moving dust suggests supply trains. Chaotic movements imply disorganization or retreat. By reading these signs accurately, a commander can anticipate enemy action and plan his own movements accordingly. Maintaining discipline. Marching forces require strict discipline to maintain cohesion. Soldiers must follow orders, keep formation, and adhere to timing. Disruption during the march due to fatigue, poor coordination, or lack of communication can lead to vulnerability and low morale. Sun Tzu stresses that a disciplined army moves like a single organism, responding efficiently to commands and adapting to unexpected situations. Terrain awareness. Choosing the correct path is essential for safety and advantage. Narrow passes, hills, rivers, forests, and marshes affect speed and risk. The commander must plan routes that allow rapid advancement, defense, and surprise attacks if needed. A misstep in route selection can result in ambush, overextension, or loss of supplies. Psychological factors during the march. Morale fluctuates based on conditions. Proximity to home, length of march, and visible signs of the enemy. Troops near their own territory may be complacent. Deep in enemy territory, they become desperate but cohesive. Maintaining confidence, Clear orders and visible leadership keeps the army effective during long campaigns. Avoiding common marching mistakes. Overextending supply lines can cripple an army. Ignoring signs of enemy movement invites ambush. Marching too fast causes exhaustion. Too slow allows the enemy to prepare defenses. The general's role is to balance speed, safety, and readiness, ensuring that troops remain capable and the army is positioned advantageously for the next engagement. Conclusion of Chapter 9. The march is more than movement. It is a strategic operation involving discipline, intelligence, and observation. A general who can interpret signs, manage troops effectively, and choose routes wisely maintains control over both his army and the battlefield. Mastery of marching techniques allows a commander to set up engagements on favorable terms, often dictating the outcome before battle begins. Chapter 10. Terrain. Sun Tzu emphasizes that terrain shapes the possibilities of battle. Understanding the types of ground and how they influence both your army and the enemy is crucial for strategic advantage. The commander who masters terrain uses it to strengthen his position and weaken the opponent. Types of terrain. Sun Tzu identifies 6 essential types of terrain. 1. Accessible ground, open and easy to navigate. Allows free movement but can also be exposed. 2. Entangling ground, difficult to navigate and easy to trap. Movement is slow. Caution is required. 3. Temporizing ground, neutral areas that do not favor either side. Ideal for waiting and observing the enemy. 4. Narrow passes, constraining areas where armies cannot deploy fully. Advantage goes to the defender. 5. Precipitous heights, high ground offers a strategic advantage. Forces on higher terrain can dominate, observe, and strike. 6. Marshes and difficult terrain, dangerous and unpredictable, can hinder movement and create disorder. Strategic use of terrain. Position your army to maximize natural advantages and minimize vulnerability. Use hills, rivers, and passes to control enemy movement and restrict their options. Avoid overextending into areas where your forces can be trapped or cut off. Sun Tzu stresses that the terrain can multiply the effectiveness of a smaller force or negate the advantage of a larger army. Proper use of ground is often the difference between victory and defeat. Adapting to conditions. Weather, visibility, and ground conditions influence every decision. Dry terrain may favor speed and cavalry. Marshes and rivers slow movement and affect supply lines. Adapt formations, pace, and strategy according to the ground to maintain flexibility and control. Psychological and moral impacts. Soldiers on favorable terrain feel confident and secure. Troops navigating difficult terrain without preparation can panic or become demoralized. Maintaining morale is as important as physical positioning. The right terrain enhances discipline and courage. Conclusion of Chapter 10. Terrain is a force multiplier. Understanding and leveraging terrain ensures that an army fights on favorable terms, reducing risk and increasing the likelihood of success. A skilled general uses terrain not only to defend and attack, but also to control the battlefield and dictate the enemy's actions. Sun Tzu emphasizes that different types of battlegrounds require different strategies. He identifies 9 common situations that a general may encounter, each with unique risks, opportunities, and psychological effects on troops. 1. Dispersive ground. Occurs when troops are close to home. Soldiers may be less motivated, complacent, or distracted. Strategy. Strengthen discipline, maintain focus, and remind soldiers of duty and reward. 2. Facile ground. Territory easily traversed and advantageous. Forces can move freely, but caution is required to avoid overconfidence. Strategy. Maintain momentum, anticipate enemy maneuvers, and use speed as leverage. 3. Contentious ground. Ground that both sides desire or where conflict is unavoidable. Likely to see intense fighting. Strategy. Deploy forces carefully, control key positions, and exploit enemy mistakes quickly. 4. Open ground. Accessible areas where neither side has a natural advantage. Strategy. Emphasize mobility, flexibility, and preparedness. Avoid direct engagement unless advantageous. 5. Ground of intersecting highways, crossroads, or vital communication points. Control of this ground allows strategic dominance over movement and supply lines. Strategy. Secure key points, disrupt enemy movement, and anticipate reinforcement routes. 6. Serious ground. Deep in enemy territory or far from supply lines, troops may face fatigue, resource scarcity, and isolation. Strategy. Maintain morale, secure supply lines, and avoid overextension. 7. Difficult ground. Treacherous terrain like mountains, marshes, or forests. Movement is slow. Forces are exposed to ambush. Strategy. Move cautiously, scout thoroughly, and position troops to minimize vulnerability. 8. Hemmed-in ground. Terrain with limited escape routes or narrow passages. Troops can feel trapped and panic. Strategy. Prepare defensive positions, control exits, and plan contingencies for retreat if necessary. 9. Desperate ground. Life or death situations where retreat is impossible. Soldiers must fight with maximum effort, as survival depends on victory. Strategy. Inspire courage, exploit desperation, and create opportunities for decisive engagement. Key lessons from the 9 situations. 1. Adaptation. Every terrain or situation requires a specific approach. 2. Observation. Read both physical and psychological signs to anticipate outcomes. 3. Control. Use knowledge of terrain, positioning, and morale to dominate the battlefield. 4. Flexibility. Adjust plans as circumstances evolve. Rigid tactics invite disaster. Sun Tzu teaches that understanding these situations allows a commander to preemptively shape engagements, turning risks into advantages and minimizing unnecessary losses. Outro. The Art of War is not just a book about battles. It is a guide to strategy, leadership, and life itself. Sun Tzu teaches that true victory is achieved through wisdom, preparation, and control of the mind, not just physical force. Key takeaways. Preparation wins wars. Success is determined before battle begins. Deception and perception matter. Manipulate the enemy's mind to gain advantage. Adaptability is crucial. Flexible tactics ensure survival and dominance. Discipline and morale, cohesive. Motivated forces outperform superior numbers. Knowledge is power. Intelligence, observation, and understanding terrain shape outcomes. The principles of the art of war extend beyond the battlefield. In business, negotiation, leadership, and personal challenges, strategic thinking, patience, and calculated action determine success. Sun Tzu's ultimate message: the wise conquer without destroying, the strong win without violence, and the greatest victory is the mind conquered.